I can't seem to make up my mind. Is USC surging, or are we just experiencing a Trojan resurgence?
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching this show on YouTube, wherever you want to download this podcast, this show is always free, and I always want to remind everybody how much I appreciate their support. Today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to turbotax.com today and get matched with your expert. Maybe we need to redefine what USC's 2026 recruiting class is doing right now. I said on yesterday's episode of Locked On USC that USC was surging with its recruiting class. Maybe it's more of a resurgence. USC is back to doing what it used to do regularly, owning West Coast recruiting, specifically California recruiting. One of USC's commits, Brandon Lockhart from Loyola High School, LA, he sees it. He posted this message on X. Legendary move. It really is becoming the USC of old. The 26 class is a real problem, and the others hate it. Check out my rundown. Brandon's covering it all for us right now. So B. Lockhart, he posted that on X after USC picked up its first commitment on Tuesday. Yeah, you heard me right. They got more than one. USC has 14 commitments. 9 of them, 9 of the 14 are from California. Not bad, right? Not bad at all. So I did say 14. The last time I spoke to everybody on yesterday's episode of Locked On USC, the Trojans had 12 commitments in their class. That happened after John Fafita made his announcement. Well, Trojans added to their consensus #1 ranked class when 4-star wide receiver Trent Mosley announced his commitment to Lincoln Riley and USC. 5'10", 170 pounds. He's considered the nation's number 180th overall prospect. That's according to On3's 2026 rankings. And he is also the number 22 player in the state of California. He plays for Santa Margarita Catholic. He Samodi Catawanga. Well, Modi is already committed to USC. Now Trent Mosley is committed to USC. So both are going to continue their careers as Trojans when they're done playing football for Carson Palmer. If you're not aware, or you haven't been aware, Carson Palmer is the head coach at Santa Margarita Catholic. I believe Lenny Vandermeet is his offensive coordinator, offensive line coach. Let me give you a hint, all right, everyone. When I start mentioning names frequently on this show, good things are about to happen. So understand that. When I am talking about players on a regular basis, good. Here's an example. I have been bringing up Easton Tafa's name a lot. The offensive lineman from the state of Utah. I mentioned his name yesterday. I also mentioned that the most likely USC targets that are ready to commit, I mentioned the names Vlad Diakonov, the offensive tackle up there at Folsom. I mentioned Deshaun Rideau, the running back from Oaks Christian, Kari Wilder, Trent Mosley, Malachi Lee, Sam Utu. We can take Trent Mosley's name off that list, obviously. However, as just like I will mention a lot, I'll mention names frequently, which is usually a sign of good things to come. What USC did just ahead of Trent Mosley's announcement, yeah, USC teased it. Before Trent put out the word that he's going to be a Trojan, USC released a video on X, social media, and it had BMW, Mike Williams, Coach Mike. He was doing the narration, and he was talking about how the best wide receivers play for USC. It was a really cool montage, actually. It showed Carson Palmer throwing darts to BMW. It was during the 2002 game against Notre Dame. Notre Dame was considered the favorite before USC got involved in Mosley's recruitment. So the message was loud and clear. So despite Mosley being a Golden Domer legacy, yeah, that's why many thought he was going there. Trent knew that USC was the place to be and not become a Notre Dame wide receiver. As BMW said, legacies are made at USC. So take that, Coach Deshaun Foster. Look, I don't think Trent really had any choice but to become a Trojan, especially when both of his parents got the interlocking SC tattoos on their bodies. I'm kidding. I have no idea if they got tattoos. I doubt it. But that would have been hella funny if they did. It's funny because, as I mentioned, he's a legacy. He's a double legacy. His dad, Emmett Mosley IV, he played football at Notre Dame for Lou Holtz. His mom, pretty good soccer player over there as well. Her name is Cindy Dawes Mosley. She won the Herman Trophy playing for Notre Dame in 1996 as the nation's most outstanding female soccer player. So his dad played for Notre Dame from 93 through 96. His mom, obviously, best soccer player in the country that year. Nearly 30 years later, almost 30 years, after Lou Holtz coached his last game against USC, by the way, 1996, I know his dad remembers this game. Trent wasn't born yet, but Mark Cusano, he became a legend. Knocked that pass down. USC won that overtime game 27-20. I cried. Yeah, it was huge. So USC snagged a dyed-in-the-wool legacy. There's no other way to say it. They took from Notre Dame. This is what USC's getting. They're getting, think about this. Trent was the Trinity League Player of the Year in his sophomore year as a 10th grader. In 2023, he caught 81 passes for over 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns. Oh, and by the way, he also ran for 270 yards and 15 touchdowns. He's an athlete. He's a dog. As a junior last fall, he caught only 61 passes for only 908 yards and 8 touchdowns, but he also missed 4 games with an injury. So take it with a grain of salt. He probably surpasses what he did as a sophomore had he not gotten hurt last year. Oh, and he also ran for 102 yards and 7 touchdowns rushing the ball. And if you need to, he could play punt returner. He returned a kick for 66 yards. When I see Trent, I see another version of Amon-Ra St. Brown, another version of Mekhi Lemon. He's in that mold. All he does is catch everything that's thrown his way. He's a football player. He's a stud. So now both of USC's wide receivers for the class of 2026 so far, they're both from Southern California. The other one is Myron Tronbaker. Yeah. Before everyone was excited. Trent Mosley, USC Trojan. He's joining his teammate from Santa Margarita, forming that pipeline. Both of those guys are going to join Elijah Vicona, who is part of the 2025 class. Before that news had even completely soaked in. Everyone was pretty excited. Well, that name I mentioned a couple minutes ago, Eason Tafa, the offensive line prospect from Draper, Utah, Corner Canyon High School. Guess what? He's a Trojan. 6'4", 315 pounds. He picked USC over Washington, Utah, UCLA, as well as Texas A&M. He told On3, quote, "I love California. My mom was born and raised in Tustin, Santa Ana, Orange County. So I've grown to love it as we've visited over the years. USC is the school my family are big-time fans of since they're from Cali. USC's culture and tradition, to me, is next level, and I just want to be a part of rebuilding the winning tradition. I think I will fit in great with their offensive scheme, and really excited to be coached by Riley and Hanson. The 2026 class they're building is going to be crazy. I need to be a part of that. I know I can contribute a lot. End quote. Says it all right there. Dude sounds like he is all in. I've been told that USC's bringing Tafa in to play center. He has an official visit date set for USC June 13th. And when he spoke with WeAreSCs.com's Scott Schrader, he actually added a little bit more. The tradition and winning history is huge. I think with the coaching changes, the energy is really high. Also, 2025 and 2026 recruiting classes, they look really good. Overall, a lot of positive things going on at USC that make me very excited for the future, end quote. So, yeah, not a bad day for USC, huh? Couple of commitments. You're just keeping that that consensus number one class. You're separating yourself a little bit further away from everyone. In 2 days, USC picked up 3 guys. Week isn't even halfway over yet. We're going to talk about what USC's done. Not so much what they've done, but the result and why it's having USC haters open their eyes, recognize it. Yeah, maybe USC is going through a resurgence. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now at turbotax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only with the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. So let's review what USC recruiting has accomplished in the last couple of days, right? On Monday, USC got a commitment from 6'5", 350-pound mammoth interior offensive lineman, John Fafita. He jumped on board. If you watched or listened to yesterday's episode of Locked on USC, I mentioned that the interior offensive line was going to be a big focus in the 2026 cycle for USC. My everydayers heard me say it. Eason Tafa, maybe he heard me say it. He proved me right today. Like I said, there's a reason why I kept mentioning his name. We were anticipating his commitment coming sooner rather than later. So, and then you had Trent Mosley. He traded in his green and gold blood. He now would rather have an infusion of cardinal and gold blue blood. Like I said, not a bad 2 days if you ask me. You get a couple of interior offensive linemen. You get a legacy wide receiver who everyone thought was going to be a Notre Dame guy. He said, nope, I'm going to be a USC Trojan guy. So because USC's resurgence is surging right now, others who are recruiting against USC, they're having a hard time coping with USC's resurgence, especially among the California recruits. Right now, the haters out there, they're trying out a new coping mechanism. The new way that they're dealing with things is, and they're actually saying it out loud. They're hoping that Lincoln Riley isn't going to win in 2025, and the guys that are committed to USC right now in March, they'll eventually drop off. Well, it's a little different this year compared to last year. But there are some rational Oregon fans out there that understand it's not just about the guys who are committing. It's not just the guys who are committing to USC right now that has everybody upset, especially our good friends up north in Eugene. It's because, like I said, compared to last year, this year feels different to everybody. USC fans feel it. Well, that vibe has reached Oregon. It's reached Washington. It's reached the other programs across the country that are recruiting against USC. Notre Dame felt it today. Last year around this time, USC had a top 5 class, but it was built around guys from Georgia. And yet USC still has a nice commit, one of the highest rated guys in the class, Xavier Griffin. He's from Georgia. They want him. But this one feels different because it's not Xavier Griffin and a bunch of guys from Georgia. It's Xavier Griffin and a bunch of guys from California. This USC class is based. And when I mean based, they're based in Southern Cal. 9 of the 14 guys from the state. Now, when you combine that with the moves USC has made behind the scenes, bringing in the general manager, everything else that goes along with the front office, they got their NIL game. It's working. Odin said they might be the leaders in NIL right now, as far as creativity, being innovative. So everybody now knows the chances of these guys sticking, it's significantly better compared to USC's class that they had at this time last year, because they were all out-of-state guys. It's hard to hold on to those guys. So as long as Coach Riley's squad doesn't crap the bed this year, there's a good chance all these guys, all this enthusiasm, all these guys who are committing, they're going to stick around. They're going to be there on signing day. So again, now the new cope is this. Watch, USC won't win, so don't worry about it now. Don't worry about it in March. Worry about it in the fall when USC's losing games. Here's another cope, and this one starts at the top, so to speak. It's coming from the Oregon insiders. Some schools use NIL to pay players to visit and commit. Verbatim. Look, any person who says that, he's actually right. Or she could be right as well. There are schools that do that, including Oregon, who's been known to blur the NIL lines more than anybody. So I find it really rich, hypocritical to have one of them insinuate that USC needs to do this type of stuff to generate enthusiasm in March. I mean, literally, this is how Oregon insiders cope when their quarterback decommits and then commits to USC. Hello, Jonas Williams. They have to put out statements like, take a deep breath, everyone. I know it feels like some things are not going our way right now at the moment, but that's recruiting. Ebbs and flows. He's talking about Coach Dan Lanning. Dan doesn't need to create spring momentum for Oregon. Riley does. The two are not the same. Okay. Whatever you need to tell yourself to get to sleep at night. Look, like I said, USC has already taken their quarterback. It's only going to get worse. That coping mechanism is going to kick into overdrive when their backup plan at quarterback, Jared Curtis, who right now is leaning to staying close to home, probably going to Georgia. He was just on a visit to Oregon, but they weren't getting that positive vibes. Distance is going to play a factor. And if they don't get Rider Lions, watch out. So again, not only is USC stealing Oregon's recruiting thunder, guys who were once considered Oregon locks, they're now considered Trojan leans. I'm talking about linebacker, Talanoa Ely. Talking about defensive tackle from Mater Dei, Tom Tupui. I don't know if I mentioned it on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC, but Steve Wiltfong saying, you know what? USC's making some inroads with Cody Green, the offensive tackle from Mater Dei, who's committed to Oregon. USC is the hot chick in the room right now. And it's not the guy, it's USC is the hot chick in Southern California, and it's got the young men in Southern California looking at him. I'll tell you what, if somehow Cody Green breaks away, decommits, I'm buying a big old bag of popcorn for the entertainment that's going to follow. Again, this is why the haters know it's different this year compared to last year. They're stacking everything that USC's done. They see that the coaching staff is better, especially on defense. I talked about the general manager in the front office, NIL. California recruiting they're focused on California. So you have all that. You have everybody excited, a lot of enthusiasm. Guys setting up visits, unofficial as well as official. And then in the future, next year, this class that USC is recruiting, they're going to be the first guys to christen the new Bloom Football Performance Center. USC's got everything rolling right now. They've got the coaching staff. They've got California's 2026 cycle that is as deep as California's ever been. NIL, front office, and this football-only performance center that's just being built for the future. Yeah. There's a reason why the haters are coming out. They recognize, USC's giant might be awake, and we might need to step aside. Because when USC is working, when they're doing what they need to do, you step aside. All right, one more segment to go. USC needs a miracle. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor makes eating easy. Factor makes eating easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's calorie smart, protein plus, or keto. You choose. Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfast, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. If you have a hectic schedule like me, the convenience is unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege, 50 off, and use code lockedoncollege, 50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code lockedoncollege, 50 off at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege, 50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. The men of Troy, they open up Big Ten basketball tournament play today. So if you're watching this episode on Hump Day, Wednesday, later on this afternoon, they're going to tip off against Rutgers. That game is supposed to tip off at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And if you're not in Indianapolis, you can catch it on the Peacock channel. Here's the thing. If USC wants to be a Cinderella and punch their ticket to the big dance, they're going to have to win 5 games. starting with Rutgers, who, if you don't remember, they beat USC by 10 points a couple of weeks ago. That game was on the road in New Jersey. In that game, Desmond Claude scored 30 points. He had a great game, 12 of 21 from the field. Wesley Yates also 23 points. He was making threes from the outside. Offensively, USC was fine. It was on the defensive side of the court that they sucked. They gave up 95 points. Usually when you score 85 points on the road, you win, but not when you're giving up 95. The last month or so of the season, USC's defense, it just disappeared. They were giving up big scores. I mean, we saw what happened at UCLA over the weekend. That was ugly. I said, we'll see if USC has the heart to play 5 games. We're going to know if they have the heart to play 1 game against Rutgers. Now, if they do beat the Scarlet Knight, game number 2, they got Purdue waiting for them. Yeah. Remember when USC traveled to West Lafayette beginning of February? The Boilermakers crushed USC 90-72. And the game wasn't even that close. Purdue was by far the better team. Inside, outside, they looked like a top 20 team. And they are a top 20 team. The only reason the score was that close, like USC lost 90-72, which you're saying, well, Mark, it's 18 points. It's not that close. Well, I'm telling you, the game wasn't even as close as that final score. When I think USC got down by 30 points, Coach Musk just said, forget it. Freshmen, go in. Well, guys like Jason Shelley, and Elohim, they went in there, they busted their butts. They played hard. So here's the bracket. And here's the miracle. Here's the miracle that USC would need if they want to navigate all the way through and make it to the big dance. If they get by Rutgers, I already told you, they get Purdue. If they somehow get by Purdue, Michigan is waiting to play their first game of the tournament after getting a double bye. Do you see USC beating Rutgers, Purdue, and Michigan? Yeah, me either. I just don't see it happening. I'm sorry. That's a tough ask. It really is. And then after that, if they somehow beat Michigan, they would get the winner of, let's see. Yeah, that would be UCLA, who has a bracket with Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Iowa. USC doesn't match up well with UCLA this year. So there you go. Do the men have a miracle in them? Can they make it happen? Probably not. And then for those of you who are following the women's team, they are going to host little USC, South Carolina. They're going to put on their dancing shoes March 15th. That's at Galen Center, USC, or it's at the Crypto. USC's hosting that game regardless. So there you go. USC football recruiting going through a resurgence. It is owning California. It's got everybody ticked off. Everybody looking over the shoulder going, gosh darn it, USC woke up. The last thing we wanted. And you got USC tournament play starting. Men starting on Wednesday. Women starting the big dance on the 15th. I will be back tomorrow with another episode of Locked on USC. I have a feeling there's going to be more recruiting news. So until then, this is Mark Hulkin with Locked on USC signing off with the consensus #1 recruiting class. And now that you've watched Locked on USC, get on over there to wearesc.com. They've got a $1 subscription special. There's a lot of information over there. Go check it out. All right. Till then, everyone, you know what to do.